Assalamu alaikum everyone. In this episode featuring our part-time host Abdulkader, which if you don't know, he is a social enthusiast and a computer science major. This time, the focus was on exploring the complexities of social anxiety. The conversation delved into the definition of social anxiety and examined the impact of personality traits, such as introversion and extroversion, on its development. The episode explored the factors contributing to social anxiety, considering both inherent and environmental influences. We also discussed the solutions to overcome social anxiety, emphasizing the significance of awareness in dealing with this issue. We also highlighted the importance of opening up to someone about social anxiety and explored the positive effects of healthy lifestyle choices, including exercise, proper nutrition, in managing social anxiety. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, and as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
You are now listening to the Castronics podcast.
Hosted by MBS, Mariam and Hajar.
Weekly episodes are coming up, so stay tuned.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the Castronics podcast. On today's episode with Abdulkader, we are going to talk about how to overcome social anxiety as a college student. And through this episode, we're looking forward to bring up some solutions and walk you through some practical solutions, in fact, in order to overcome this growing epidemic among college students. Assalamu alaikum, Abdulkader. How are you doing?
I would like to welcome our ladies and gentlemen who are listening to us today. And what an interesting subject.
So basically, first of all, before we start, can we settle on one definition on what is social anxiety exactly? Can you define it?
Okay, I will not go through the complicated definition. I will just go through the definition that is familiar to all of us as students, which is, this is the fear of social interaction. It's like, there's it's similar to your test anxiety, before you test and you're afraid and you don't know what's going on. It seems very unpredictable to you. That's what social anxiety is, Social interactions seem difficult to go through. They seem unpredictable. You don't know what's going on. You feel afraid. You feel stuck. And the thing is, sometimes you might not even realize that you have social anxiety. You just feel that way,
That's the funny part.
Yeah. People think that everyone thinks like that, but no, it's with certain individuals. So sometimes you don't realize that you have social anxiety.
Yeah, sometimes it's confused with shyness, but it's more discomfort, according to ChatGPT.
Great. I like the honesty. So if I briefly summarize it, it's social anxiety is basically a fear of interacting with strangers. Can we have social anxiety with the people we know? Is that even possible? Can you encounter that with the people you're familiar with? Is that possible?
Again, according to ChatGPT, it's the intense fear of social situations and interactions. So even interacting with normal people, yeah, and the situation itself. Maybe it's in your brain. Maybe you're not there, but it's what's happening.
Here's
inside.
the thing. Usually, social anxiety is associated with introverts. So I don't know if you guys have dealt with introverts. Maybe some of you are actual introverts, but
I used to be one.
Yeah. The thing is, once an introvert is comfortable with you, they cannot shut up. The thing is, they start talking, they start feeling comfortable. So that's the thing. Social anxiety is usually, why is there this fear? Because you're meeting new people. You don't know who they are. You don't know what their demeanor is like, so that's the idea. I don't think it's associated with people who are, familiar with you, your family, your cousins, your friends, that's not a thing. It's usually with strangers, with people who you have not met before.
Oh, what you mean is that social anxiety is kind of like a door that opens up the relationships in which you go in. And once you pass that door, you can kind of have a free way.
Social anxiety is the thing that prevents you from going through that door. That door is your social interactions, and social anxiety is
the key.
Yeah, it's like the obstacle that prevents you from going through that door, meeting new people, even unlocking new opportunities. Sometimes in severe cases, people out on so many life opportunities. So yeah, that's how severe it can be with some individuals.
Hajar, what do you think about social anxiety?
I think everyone summarized it the same. Literally, whatever I was gonna say, everyone literally said every single point that I was
Well,
gonna
what do
say.
you think about it? Like, what's that?
In general, I think,
Before I continue, do you think it's something rampant among college students? Like, do you think that it's something that deserves the attention or that we should speak more about?
yeah, absolutely. Because there are many new students that actually suffer from social anxiety, coming to a new environment, adapting to a new environment. I think it's hard for them to especially people who are studying abroad and international students in general. They're away from their families and they're away from everyone they know, all their friends and family. So they come here and they're like, "Oh, I'm on my own now." That's the feeling they get when they first arrive here. So some people, of course, they're able to adapt, and these are extroverts. But introverts, they're gonna have difficulty adapting at first. But I also don't want to associate introverts with social anxiety, because I'm an introvert myself, and I'm actually 53% introvert, and I don't consider myself I have social anxiety. I used to, but now I don't think so. I can adapt very well.
Is it because you're balancing them out? Because you said 53% introvert, so I guess you're 47% extrovert. It kind of is the same balance. Is that why you're not social anxious anymore?
What do you mean?
As in, since you balanced out the proportion of you being an introvert and an extrovert, maybe that's a factor that helped you overcome this social anxiety things of yours. Do you think that's the case?
I was gonna ask if it was practice. The more you practice, the more it becomes easier.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
more you interact with people, the more you face that.
'Cause,
The more you break that wall, the more it gets easier to cross.
Yeah, that's a
I,
way towards the solution.
before I entered university, I was still an introvert, and I still had social anxiety. So the percentage, even though it's still almost the same, but it didn't change. The fact that I used to be socially anxious, and now I'm not. It's by practice basically.
The thing is, usually introverts start out with social anxiety. This is the thing that they start with.
If you allow me to cut you off, you know what? I think we're conflating a bit too much between being an introvert and having social anxiety. It's not just because I'm an introvert that does not mean that I have social anxiety. Some people are introverts because of their own choice. They actually enjoy that. They like their comfort. So I don't think we can categorize every single introvert to be a social anxious person.
That's right. That's
Right.
Yeah, I
That's
agree with that.
absolutely true.
But now we want to get into what makes a person socially anxious, and we're going to work out through these solutions.
Okay, so I would suggest a few of those. Usually, people are socially anxious because they have not gone through enough social interactions, or their experience with social interactions have been not so good. Like getting made fun of, with your friends and all that. Facing some weird or psychopathic, personalities and all these things.
So past experiences.
Yeah, past experiences could be like a huge factor. The other thing is that not having the appropriate skills, because social interaction is actually, to interact with others is a skill,
Indeed.
It encompasses some other, sub skills. So these two can be overcome, and especially for past experiences, you can use these to tell what corner or what point you are suffering with. For example, people made fun of you back in the day, so you would try to learn how to not let these things affect you. Things like making account for whom you're going to be interacting with, even though that's not always possible, but all these obstacles can be overcome. In terms of social skills, there's so many articles online, there's so many books, videos, and all these things. You can start there. The internet is a huge university for everything.
I would like to add to that also having the fear of judgment, people judging you in whatever you do and whatever you wear. There is the point of fear of judgment where people judge you and whatever you do, whatever you wear. And there's also the fear of fitting in. And the second point is the fear of fitting in. Usually, like when you're, an outcast, you usually have social anxiety because of that.
Interesting what you said.
What if it's also social learning? So like you're not socially anxious person. However, you sit with people who are socially anxious, or you read about being socially anxious.
Would that make you anxious?
Yes.
Do you think anxiety is
Contagious?
contagious?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Actually?
Yes.
Just as being courageous is contagious, so the opposite is also the same.
Please elaborate. Give an example.
So you're okay. So a fear I have is like thinking a lot about mental health and then searching about it a lot. So to the point where my content is about a certain mental disorder, and then me thinking that I'll have that mental disorder, but I don't. But because I'm reading about it a lot, watching people talk about it and watching people who have it,
Makes you feel like you have it
then
yourself.
so then I'm like, oh, maybe I do. I have that.
But that's maybe because you see one symptom they have and that you have as well.
Because again, being socially anxious is like a small circle, and like a very big circle of something I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like a Venn diagram. Like imagine a Venn diagram, and being socially anxious is like a small group of people, but then they have the same symptoms as other people. That's normal.
Oh, they overlap.
Yes.
That actually brings us back to the introvert part. So people who are socially anxious are not necessarily introverts, and introverts are not necessarily socially anxious, but there's like the Venn diagram between these two, which is some people are actually introverts and socially anxious. So allow me to add on your point, actually hanging out with socially anxious people, like even though it might sound a little bit paradoxical, like how would a socially anxious person hang out with others? But the thing is, your friends, your circle, your close ones might be some of the reasons. So our listeners, you guys can reflect back on your relationships with the others. Like, are there any people around you who are socially anxious?
It's funny that you say that because now I realize that I do have friends who are socially anxious.
Especially if they talk about it.
No, they never talk about it, but I feel it. I know that they're awkward when it comes to dealing with people, but just that they happen to be comfortable with a certain group of people around them. But I do know that they're actually socially anxious. Very interesting.
Before we move on, we left 2 points that Hajar said without touching on. One was you're getting judged based on what you're wearing. The other was the fear of blending in. Is that right? Is there a third point, or was it just these two?
No, it was just these two, but I wanted to add like a point to what Maryam said. First of all, don't self-diagnose, please. That's one thing. Please don't do that. It's gonna harm everything. And second of all, doesn't learning about like reading and learning about social interactions doesn't make you self-aware?
I'm starting to learn that there's a certain point of learning. There's a fine line between learning and then actually thinking about it. Because that also happens with doctors. You know how the people joke about like first years and second years in medicine, they start to have these pseudo symptoms because they're learning about things, and then they're like, oh, maybe I have that disease. So it's the same thing.
It's a constant disclaimer actually for anyone who is learning to not self-diagnose, especially people who are working in medicine and mental disorders, psychiatry and things like that.
I would say that's a minute form of ADHD. I could be wrong though.
What?
I would say that it's a minute form of ADHD.
Okay, we can have another episode on ADHD. Okay.
Anyways,
let's focus on social.
Oh my god.
let's move on. Let's move on to the.
Wait, why are you so eager to move on? Okay, the first thing, the fear of blending in. A huge part of beating social anxiety is being comfortable in your own skin. I'm pretty sure for people who read or watch videos about that on how to solve or how to stop social anxiety is being comfortable in your own skin. Accept who you are. Don't be overcritical of yourself. This is for the blending in part. It actually also migrates to the part about getting judged on what you're wearing. The same exact thing. Be comfortable in your own person. of course, don't wear like some crazy stuff, like some of these people are wearing these days. But the idea is
Don't dress like Abdulkader.
no, I'm actually
he
dressing pretty cool
actually dresses pretty cool, by the way, just for the record.
today. All right. Yeah, this is the point. Be comfortable with who you are. Don't be overcritical of yourself. Be accepting of the person you are. Don't try to change or wish that you are someone else.
I would like to add to that at the end of the day, people don't care.
Everyone, the room you're walking into. Here's some point. The room you're walking into, you're thinking everyone is watching you. Meanwhile, in reality, everyone is like focused on themselves.
Everyone thinks everyone's watching them.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone is so focused on themselves, and they're afraid that others are watching them. So relax.
Exactly. At the end of the day, right before you go to sleep, you're gonna think about what you did today, not what someone else did.
Indeed.
All right, moving on.
Now we shall move on to the solutions. Finally. Now let's say that you have a social anxious person that comes up to you and asks you for solutions. What are some practical steps you would advise them to go through in order to overcome this disease, mental disease, let's say?
Exposure therapy.
Okay, elaborate. What's that?
Put yourself in social situations.
Exactly.
Force yourself into social.
Yeah, force it. Expose yourself into social situations that make you uncomfortable.
It's gonna be extremely awkward. We know it's gonna be
But
extremely
practice
uncomfortable.
makes perfect.
Yeah, true.
Your first few social interactions are gonna suck. They're gonna be so hard. So the thing is, practice makes perfect. Meeting new people. You don't know. You might bump into someone else who is suffering from the same issue and is trying to work on it.
Let's break this down into two different steps. So first one is build new friendships. Yeah. And the second one is to attend social functions.
Exactly.
So let's go into building new friendships. How would you guys go about building new friendships? And why would you advise that? I, to be honest, think that having healthy relationships could help a lot into removing this kind of mental disorder, because it's a mental disorder, social anxiety. And it comes down to really choosing the people whom you could feel comfortable with, And we as human beings, we understand body language, we understand verbal language. So when someone speaks or someone reacts to whatever we do or their gestures, you can easily tell if this is someone you feel comfortable around or not. And that's a first step into choosing correctly your friendships. Second thing, when you choose your friendships, be careful of what is the goal of this friendship. Always make sure to gain some value out of it. I personally don't like friendships in which you gain nothing out of it. And in fact, you lose yourself over time and lose people in the process because of your attachment to those people. So that's a very important point to keep in mind when building new friendships and choosing healthy relationships.
But before building new friendships, I think that you're supposed to learn more about emotional intelligence and also more about body language to be able to interpret how the person is feeling and to have empathy more.
I humbly disagree because this is gonna make it.
Because
otherwise, anxiety.
Otherwise, if you don't understand the person in front of you, you're not gonna know how to interact. So that's gonna increase the social anxiety.
But interacting helps with understanding the body language.
Well, yeah, it takes practice, but when you read about it more, you decrease the time.
Let's say that this is your next level. For the first, how to start with beating social anxiety is just go out there.
No, I think the first step is be aware of it.
Yeah, the first step is to be aware.
Yeah, this is like step 0.
Step 1. This is step 1. Be aware of what you do. Yeah. What's your patterns, learn, and then form a plan.
But as I said, we are humans. So it's good to read about others and how they mentally operate and how to be more self-aware. But at the end, we have the inner capability to adapt and to meet new people and to deal with their encounters with us. So by you saying this, Hajar, by what you just said, which is to read more about these topics, you're inherently locking a new fear into people's minds, those who are socially anxious. Now they're going to be like, you know what? Maybe it's not a good idea to go meet new people because I don't even have this knowledge. I don't even know how to be empathic. I don't even know how to. So I think if we try to simplify this process, first of all, as Abdulkader said, and Maryam said as well, and you even further said, go out and meet people and get into the bath of it, so you get the gist of how to deal with them.
Actually, leaving the door of your room is hard for socially anxious people. The thing is, you should be aware of that as well. Like, it's gonna be hard. It's not gonna be comfortable. Always staying at home is always gonna be comfortable.
If you allow me, you were saying this on the assumption that all socially anxious people are introverts.
No, the idea is that
If they're introverts, they wouldn't have any problem leaving their door.
they would have a problem attending social events. That's the thing. That's why you cut me off. I was reaching to an idea.
Oh my lord, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Go ahead.
the thing is, let's put this scenario. You got invited with your friends, or let's say you saw a post about a social gathering. Let's say you're ISS here, if you're an international student. The ISS is making some kind of event, some kind of gathering, and you're like, I don't think so. There's no one to go with. I think I'm gonna just sleep it off, or just stay at home. Don't do that, okay? Go out, meet new people. You might meet people from your faculty. You might meet some like-minded people who would turn out to be, the best friends in your upcoming years, especially if you're like a year 1 or year 2 student. So this is the scenario that I was trying to build. This is the common thing that social anxious people go through.
Actually, you know what? When it comes to attending social events and social functions, whenever there is some sort of event that's being organized throughout the university, I still am trying to understand the people who say that it's worthless to attend, because in my opinion, or in the way I see things, is that you're not losing anything by attending it. What's the worst that can go wrong? Losing time? Well, if you make sure the event is at a time in which you are not doing something anyways, you're always going to gain value out of it. So I very much recommend people to attend social functions. It's a big plus for you. You might meet new people, as Abdulkader said. You might learn new things. You might acquire new connections. Even if you don't make friends, at least you get acquaintances. You never know when these acquaintances become close friends to you. So you really are not losing anything.
Make yourself familiar, because later on, if you are attending more and more social events, you might see the same people, and seeing the same faces over and over will give you 2 bonuses. You guys will become friends, and you will be more comfortable around people because now you know them. Now there's not that many strangers out there anymore. Exactly. So that's the thing.
Life hack: know a lot of people, so you're not socially anxious meeting your friends.
Exactly. I've been told this a lot, which is you MBS, you know everyone in the university. I don't know everyone in the university. I know a few people, and I got to speak to a little bit more people than others do. That's helped me become more comfortable around the people in the environment that I'm in, because I've spoken to most of the people around me. So it makes it easier for me to just be myself at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, don't overwork yourself. Sometimes you might feel like you're like not having enough energy, and that's okay. Take some downtime, recharge, regenerate, and go at it again.
That's my point. Be kind to yourself and be patient.
Yeah, be patient.
Don't
It's a
force
process.
it a lot, but still do it. But be patient and kind to you.
Don't try too much. And most important thing, do not attempt to change your entire self to fit in, because that is not the goal. That's only going to make your situation worse. If you are dealing with some sort of social anxiety, do not try to pretend, or do not try to fake a personality that you do not own. Stay true to yourself. And if you ever change for the better, not for the worse. Next practical step that I had in mind is to be open to your close friends. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, be honest. Share your anxiety with people.
Yeah, talk to someone actually if you're feeling like
Yeah.
What he said.
Exactly.
like if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, or you want some company with you to go to that specific social event, talk to someone.
Who would you
Invite
go
people
to?
to come with you.
My journal. I justified every single point I was agreeing with, but yeah, I would go to my journal. I would write about it and then reflect.
No, talk to a person. Talk to someone.
You need
Try
to talk
to-
to people.
And then
It will okay, so for me, talking to people gives me that realization moment. When I say it out loud, I have
It
Yeah,
reorganizes
you
your
write-
thoughts.
you write
That's,
it
that,
down.
that's
Yeah.
the idea.
Sometimes you write it down and you just
No.
get the realization. I do that.
when I talk. Anyway.
Let's agree that some ways can work for some people and not for
Yeah.
others.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but the idea here is to talk to someone, like try to make it clear. Oh, I'm feeling a little bit anxious, going to this event and all that, and don't be afraid. Just because we said, or just because it's categorized as a mental disorder, quote unquote, doesn't mean that you have something wrong. It's just something
Yeah, you're
that,
not defined by it.
yeah. It's just something that can be beaten. It's just something that you're going through at the moment. You're planning on working on it. I mean, if it's not something that you're not planning to work on it, you wouldn't have opened this episode to begin with.
Yeah, there you
You're
go.
here. You're listening to us because you want to work on it.
Just a disclaimer, since you mentioned that, two things. First of all, joining their points. So make sure to have a space in which you can express yourself, whether it could be a book, a journal, or people that you go to. Second thing, we are not mental health experts, okay? So whatever we say in this episode is based on personal opinions,
Personal
past experiences, and self-research. We all have done some research on this topic. So we're trying to bring in the best based on what we have experienced before. And we're going to get to the end of this podcast. We'll further elaborate on what I mean in this, but just to keep going, another step that I think is very useful is to exercise. What's your take on that?
Yeah, you mentioned that because you're a gym bro.
No, okay, so
I mean, I'm a former gym bro. I'm off for some while, so I understand. But
I mean, look, just to make things clear here, when I speak about exercising, it's not only about the gym. You can literally exercise in any form that you want. It could be basketball, it could be swimming, it could be badminton, it could be any form of exercise or physical effort that you make in order to make your body get exhausted or tired in a certain way. Okay. And the reason why I say this is that having such an activity in which you can release your negative energy is very important for your mental health. It's good for your body and it's good for your mind as well to have some sort of exercise that you practice. The ideal case is to practice daily, but if you can't daily, at least a few times a week, and that's going to help a lot. That's actually going to boost the way you think. That's going to boost the way you operate.
You know what else? Actually, going, especially the sports that require teams, there's a huge, addition. There's a huge step that you could take.
Indeed, that's actually a two-in-one.
Yeah, to beat social anxiety. Go on teams.
Yeah,
Go on sports that have two or more people.
No, why I say this? It's a two-in-one package. Why? Because you have exercise and social gatherings at the same time.
Exactly.
That's even better. Yeah.
The same people liking the same thing, like an entire team or two.
Do you guys want to play badminton?
Absolutely.
Sure thing. One thing, I noticed this when it comes to UHM students. A lot of us, I'm talking about boys, I don't know about girls, sorry guys. But for us boys, we love playing futsal or basketball. When it comes to futsal, you can literally see throughout the week, because everybody's busy with studies or whatever they're doing, nobody's signing up for a list, because in different groups we have lists in which you put in your name and then you go to the playground. And on Thursday, everybody plans on playing either volleyball or football.
They're always making time.
Literally, everybody's waiting throughout the whole week to have a spot in order to play in one of those sports.
You know what?
Because of how fun they are.
For the ladies, listening to us, take your friends, go out, go to a court, badminton, volleyball. I've seen Malaysian girls here play volleyball and all that. Here our university has a lot of courts, and being a girl doesn't take away that chance from you.
Doesn't prevent you from playing
We
sports
actually
at all.
played badminton.
Yeah, there you go.
Last semester.
I mean, what I say applies to everyone, whether boys or girls. So there's no
Yeah.
distinction in that. But the main point being that exercising is a very good form of getting away from a social anxiety. So, Mariam, what do you think of what we just said?
Okay, so I wanted to also add a point that brain chemistry can also be a factor of social anxiety. So according to ChatGPT,
Once again,
neurotransmitters in the brain such as serotonin and dopamine play a role in regulating mood and anxiety. So you might be anxious because your brain chemistry is no bueno.
It's not okay.
So it's not you, it's actually like it's not mental, it's actually physical.
Okay.
And how do we beat that or overcome that?
Is with
An
exercise.
example is exercise, and also eating healthy or regulating your food, or like a healthy diet. So when you eat healthy, you balance the chemicals in your body, so that balances out so everything is in its normal levels. So then all your serotonin and dopamine won't have an imbalance.
Yep, exactly. And you guys can
Equals
look
no
into that.
socially anxious
You guys can look
person.
into that further. We're trying to just make this podcast as close to you all, our listeners, as possible.
As laymen, we use layman terms. In any case, so yes, indeed, eating healthy is another step or another solution that someone can use in order to overcome social anxiety. Last point that I'd like to make before we end this, mindfulness.
Yoga.
Relaxation.
Actually, it helps with all sorts of anxiety. Mindfulness, in my opinion, mindfulness is realizing and getting a hold of what's going on in your head, not letting whatever's going on control you or hold you back. That's the idea. Things like meditation, okay, things like just some other activities like walking in a park or reading or whatever is that.
It helps you clear mind.
Yep, clearing your mind and all these things.
I would bring this to the religious
Aspect?
aspect. And in my opinion, in a form of mindfulness, so Maryam mentioned meditation. I would say praying. Prayer is a form of mindfulness. And for us as Muslims, praying 5 times a day can keep you away from being mentally ill in a way. Not always. I'm not making a
giant statement.
Exactly. I'm not making a statement here, but praying 5 times a day can really help you. And there comes a verse that comes to my mind in which Allah says, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكَ, which translates into, and whoever turns away from my remembrance or my dhikr, remembrance of Allah, then he will not have a happy life. He will have a very difficult life. And this is Allah saying in the Quran that He is actually promising the people who turn away from His remembrance that they will not live a nice life, and they will always be tormented when it comes to their mental issues or problem issues or even when it comes to financial issues. So praying 5 times a day is a solution towards overcoming social anxiety. Not only prayer, but also reading Quran and holding on to religion in general.
Okay, you guys, just relax. Don't focus on yourself too much. Don't be overcritical, as we said in the beginning. Don't try to make false scenarios as well. I noticed some socially anxious people who are like my very close friends of mine. They do this a lot. Like they're like, oh, what are the others gonna say about me? What should I, how should I deal with that? How are they gonna deal with me and all these things? So don't think that. Just count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and get out there. Put yourself in there.
Exposure therapy.
Yeah. So the last point that I wanted to make, that I said in the middle of the podcast, was even after these steps, if you still feel socially anxious, do seek help.
Professional help.
Seek professional help. Here at UTM, for example, you have the mental health council.
We have a free counseling service.
Exactly, they do have that. So do pay them a visit. I mean, you're not losing anything. They could really much help you in whatever you're feeling like, So do pay them a visit if these solutions do not work out with you. And I hope we have presented a few practical steps that could help you in whichever way.
And we hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Like, we're trying to be as close to you all as possible. We don't want to be like on this high stage, and we want to be close to you guys.
We're human beings like you, so
we're students, we're suffering from the same things. I've personally gone through a few social anxious situations, so yeah.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode. We hope that it was beneficial for you all. And we see you on the next one. Assalamu alaikum.
Bye.
of no Maryam.